Welcome to the final part of this very long series, I have to say, of what it takes to be cabin crew for Qatar Airways. Now, I'm going to be taking you through the questions, right? Questions that I was asked, questions that I heard other people being asked, and questions that people online have confessed they have been asked. I'm going to do this in 3 sections: personal, job suitability, and then customer service. Okay, so these questions, you can use them as sort of like a guide for what the type of questions that they're going to ask you, and prepare yourselves, and so that you can like train yourself like how you're going to answer these questions, right? Question 1: how would you adapt to living in Doha? Are you ready to live away from your family? As cabin crew, how would you deal with your emotions? If you are successful in becoming cabin crew with Qatar Airways, how do you think you will cope with the change in lifestyle? What do you think it will be like working for Qatar Airways as cabin crew? What are your expectations regarding the work schedule and potential for international travel? How many times have you called in sick within the last year? When have you been flexible in a previous work situation? Do you take initiative or wait and follow others? Are you willing to serve alcohol? That is a question that is also asked in your initial online application. If your friend/coworker is stealing, what would you do? Describe a situation where you helped your team and what was the outcome. Tell us about an experience you had with a difficult colleague. What is the most challenging situation you have ever faced? What do you think about authority? What are your salary expectations for this position? Now, you can find average salary on the internet. I will put it up here. I forgot how much it is. I'm sure it goes up annually, and the last time I checked was last year when I was going through this process. What would you pack for an overlay? That is important because they also ask you. I was personally asked like what I would pack if I was going to say a place like Hong Kong, and I had to say like what specifically I would pack, because it shows that you are able to adapt and think of the place that you're going to. You look up the weather, you plan, and therefore like that planning ahead shows that you are a good fit to become cabin crew. This is still about personal. Tell me about yourself, okay? Why do you smile? Have you ever lost your temper? What would you choose to be, smart or beautiful? Are you an introvert or extrovert? There was a girl, I think I told you previously that I was number 3, right? So number 1, right? They asked her, are you an introvert or an extrovert? And she answered, oh, I'm an introvert. And like literally when she thought back to it, she like kicked herself because she was like, why did I say I was an introvert? Because obviously that means I'm not good with communicating with people, and this job requires you to communicate with people. Would you change something about you? Do you like changes? What is change for you, or what do you think about change? Are you honest? Are you a loyal person? Are you someone that people can trust? Do you say the truth? What is your principle in life? What animal would you think describes you? Which one is better, rich and unhappy or unrich and happy? People, things, ideas. What would you choose and why? What do you like to do in your free time, and what are your interests? Now, that was the end of personal, right? Now I'm going on to job suitability. What qualities do you have for this position? How does this position fit your career goal? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Now, that question of where do you see yourself in 5 years, not specifically for Qatar, but in another interview that I got, right? I was mentioning how I was going on for I would go on to do my master's in psychology, and they were like, oh, we wanted somebody who is more so aligned with working long time in this company, right? And so when they say, where do you see yourself in 5 years, related to the company, don't just say like in general, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Say maybe in 5 years, you hopefully would have gone from basic cabin crew to now because you start in economy, and now I think leveling up, you'd go to business? I'm not sure, but like related to Qatar Airways. Relate your answer that way. What are you doing at the moment? Working. Tell me about your work experience. I told you guys previously that work experience focus on your customer related or hospitality related work experience. Is this your first application? Now, they would want to know this, right? Basically, they want to know, like, if you have failed before, because if you did, like, what exactly did they fail you for? And they don't want to go through that whole process just to know that you have a weakness somewhere that does not align with you becoming cabin crew for them. If you are not successful today, would you reapply? People got asked this question, and obviously people answered yes, because it's something that is a goal for them. It's they dream, they want to reapply. Okay, they would come back to hopefully be successful the next time. What are your strengths as a cabin crew member? What are your skills that align with the cabin crew? What makes you better than the next candidate, and therefore why should we offer you the position of cabin crew with Qatar Airways? What makes a successful cabin crew team? Is the crew's first priority safety or service? How would you deal with somebody who was part of the cabin crew team who was not doing their job properly during a flight? What challenges do you think Qatar Airways will face in the future, and how could you, as cabin crew, help us to overcome them? What's your biggest weakness? Now, obviously, when they ask you this question, don't actually put out your biggest weakness out there. Put out a weakness that you can then turn into a strength, okay? Why do you want to work for Qatar Airways? That's a question that I got, okay? And that's when I told you that I was listing all the awards that they got, everything that I saw on the internet, and they asked me oh, what did you discover on the internet that was interesting? Where did you find out about Qatar Airways? I got this in my interview, and basically I said the truth through the internet, just through job searching. What do you know about Qatar Airways? And basically you must be okay, you're going to an interview, and I know maybe you may not know that much now, but once you get to the interview, you should know a bit about the company that you're going to work for and the location that it's in, right? What do you know about Doha, Qatar? What do you know about Qatari culture, and how would you respect it while working on board? Now, this section is the customer service section. How would you handle a stressful situation on a flight? What would you do in case of an emergency on board? Explain the safety procedures for a cabin crew member during an evacuation. Now, this is a sort of question that they would ask you after the presentation that they present to you on the second day, because they would have probably put it in the interview. Describe a time you had to react quickly to a safety concern. How would you address a complaint from a passenger? How would you handle a difficult passenger? I had the question of how would you handle a customer who does not want to sit in the seat that they have been allocated and wants to switch to a different seat? How would you ensure the safety of passengers with special needs on board? What do you know about customer service? How would you ensure a positive experience for all passengers on board? What is your understanding of Qatar Airways service standards? Describe a situation where you went above and beyond to help a customer. What would you do if you saw another cabin crew being rude to a passenger? Create a meal for business class passengers. At Qatar Airways, we pride ourselves on delivering exceptional service. What is the best example of customer service that you have come across? Now, I will say something that I noticed, right? If you're somebody that they just off of first impressions already, you won't get the more difficult questions. They will give the more difficult questions to somebody who, I don't know, maybe they think they need to prove themselves because through first impressions, they weren't really sold or whatever. Because my questions compared to other people's questions that were eliminated along the process, my questions were fairly simple and straightforward that I could answer them. There wasn't anything where I had to really rack my brain. And even when I was asked something and maybe I got a bit of it wrong, it wasn't a big cross over my name or whatever. So yeah, If you want to practice with interview questions, you can take this as an example. As I'm saying the questions, pause the video, say the answer that you would say in that moment, and then go through the questions so that you are well prepared for that day.